But I won $1,700. I was like, I'm gone, boys. See ya. I've made it.
2 weeks notice, you just drop the golf club and just walk.
Me and my buddy, we make it all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
Hi guys, welcome back. Table One Podcast. Co-host Justin Young, other co-host Art Parman, and another very special guest, Nick Petrangelo.
Nicky P on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, boys. Happy to be here.
And I made him shave, guys, just to let everyone know. I was a little worried that I wouldn't have the best beard on the podcast today, and I said, down to a mustache or you're out.
Yeah,
That's right. Beard envy, real thing.
yeah. I'm done with the beard now that it went gray, so I'm going mustache only.
All right, I like it.
That's good.
Work that thing into a broom. That's gonna
Yeah.
be.
Can you hang out at middle schools or ice cream parlors, or is that bad?
200, 300 feet, I think, is the max.
That's great.
All right, so normally on this podcast, we kind of take the viewership back in time for your life, kind of when you got into gambling, or like kind of like the transition of where you went from like, oh, I want to be a normal person, and then like I don't want to be a normal person anymore.
Yeah, it's similar to everyone. I had, the buddies in high school stuff and all that, but really a funny story when I really started getting into it is I went to this middle school. It was like a private middle school that was kind of an hour from my house. So every day I'd have to wait for a while for my mom to get out of work and pick me up. And one of my best friends there, we used to play pool like very competitively and started betting each other like $5, but he was from super rich family and I had no money at all. So we were gambling on pool or whatever. Then I went on vacation with him and his family, and I got stuck like $180 playing shuffleboard. I was like 16. So we're playing shuffleboard, and I went on this vacation with this kid in Maine, and like he just has infinite money. He's still one of my closest friends, but yeah, his family's like own a bunch of businesses or whatever. So I'm stuck $180, and I'm like, I don't have it at all. Vacation's over, don't have it. They're playing. He's like, I'll give you $20 to play. His older cousin is playing poker at this guy's house. I have no idea how to play except for playing with my buddies, and I just won it for like exactly that amount. And I was like, that was probably, looking back on it, probably not the best way to get introduced to actually winning in poker. Be like, it's gonna solve all your problems and bail you out anytime you need it. But that was my first real kind of win. It was a $20 sit and go with all these guys, and got me unstuck from my shuffleboard debt. And then from there, we started, that summer, him and I, we had our licenses, and we kind of hit the like local like bar game circuit. Without saying too much, we met these guys that used to play at the bars and the tournaments playing $20 buy-ins or whatever. They invited us to this home game they had in their back of their cell phone store. And again, I had no idea how to play. I mean, I'm not even making this up. This guy, I won't say his name, he ended up they were clearly criminals. Like, he was just like selling stuff on eBay and all this. He ended up getting arrested, but we kind of grew up playing, 1-2 or 2-5 in the back of this cell phone store too. And then finally, when I was really addicted to the game and loved it so much after, going through with my buddy there, and we even ran games in his parents' basement, and I would deal, and it was really ridiculous. We were kind of hanging out with these like older dudes that we had no business being around. But then I met John Jaffe through a series of sort of coincidental things that happened, and then I got really serious about it. So I went from the classic like playing random games with wherever and with random people to my roommate in boarding school the year after that I moved schools from what I was talking about. He grew up again next to Jonathan Jaffe, so they were neighbors, and he knew all I talked about was poker, and I was like reading Super System, and he's like, why are you spending your time on this stuff? We're like playing sports at this super competitive boarding school, and I was like trying to, sell my golf clubs to play like 25 cent, 50 cent on Poker Stars, and just obviously like busting all the time. And this kid's like, my neighbor just dropped out of college, and he's making money he's playing professional poker, and he just bought an apartment. And I was like, I got to meet this kid. At that point, John Jaffe was just kind of actually a successful pro poker player already by the age of, 20 or something, just playing heads up sit and goes. And I just bothered him. I'll never forget. I got that was Instant Messenger days, so his AIM name.
We do this. What's your Instagram name?
Instant Messenger.
Instant Messenger, sorry.
Mine was Petrange05. Okay. Not very.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
sometimes they're embarrassing. Sometimes they're not.
No.
What was John's?
John's was Hornet Pride, because he was a massive Charlotte Hornets fan. So I just remember just like, okay, I got his AIM name. I'm just like talking about poker, and he's like actually knows what he's doing, and he's very successful, and he's like, leave me alone, like he doesn't want to be badgered by some kid that's just like trying to. But eventually I wore him down enough where he would let me watch him play.
Oh, wow.
Like, talk to me while I was watching him on Poker Stars, and I would talk to him a little bit. And then it got to the point where, when during that summer, I had talked to him, I had bothered him enough where he said I could like come to his apartment and watch him play. And then that evolved into us like going up to Turning Stone together. I don't know if you guys know that, but that's an 18 plus casino in New York.
I've been there. I drove all the way from Virginia to go play small tournaments up there.
So then, there was one summer where I really started kind of watching him play a lot. He started helping me. He started, kind of giving me like little strategic things here and there, and then full on started kind of coaching me. And I was working at a golf course at the time where I was on summer break, so I'd have to get up at like 3 a.m. to work for the maintenance crew. So I would be working from like 3:30 to 2 in the afternoon. And then I would get home and go to John's house and like register the 3 rebuy and every single time micro thing. Then I was at his house, made a run. I got second to 3 rebuy for $1,700. Golf course next day. I had been telling them every day about I got 11th last night. When I fucking win one, I'm gone forever. And then sure enough, every day I come in there, they're like, you're full of shit, man. You're not playing, you're playing like $3 tournaments. You're going to be here. But I won $1,700 and I was like, I'm gone, boys. See ya. I've made it.
No 2 weeks notice? You
just
drop the golf club and just walked?
Yeah. That summer we were doing a bunker project, which is the worst work possible. You're just digging holes all day in the bunkers. And I was just like, peace. And that was my last job, honestly.
That's great.
But though at that point, John became my backer. We did this thing that summer at the end. Every August, it used to be a Turning Stone series, and when we were there, we talked about I floated some ideas by him, probably because I realized $1,700 isn't a lot of money, and I was like, "What do you think about backing me?" And he's like, "All right, I'm gonna send you $5,000 now," and I was about to go to my back to school for the year. He's like, I'll send you $5,000, but you can't do anything with it until the end of the school year, and we'll just split whatever's there. So he kind of taught. It was the first time I wasn't putting on, selling a sand wedge and putting $37 on Poker Stars and playing, 25 cent, 50 cent with no money, right? Mm-hmm. So I obviously never held on to some money, but he's like, this is the bankroll. So we're going to start with these tournaments, and then as you move up, we'll move up with your skill level. And then he backed me. That was in 2006, 2007, and then he backed me until 2012. So
Wow.
Never had an issue. We both made a ton of money. I never really cared to like leave or try to do my own thing because I was so happy moving up in stakes. He would give me pieces of his live tournaments, and he won Foxwoods for like $800K or something. So we were both just kind of looking back on it. I'm like, why didn't I just like go on my own and play cash?
That would be unlucky.
Yeah. You were on a team, baby.
But it was just like he was teaching me everything. It's really hard to overstate, especially at that time, how valuable his poker mind was to me, because it's not like today where like you kind of have all this stuff out there. I mean, back then, you guys remember, it's like you literally making up your own pre-flop ranges, like based on what you think.
Best you could do is listen to a guy, listen to that Taylor KB guy tell stories about why he's doing stuff, like videos of that.
That was the absolute best thing, and even that was nothing. So John's like, I don't know, King 4 suited seems like a really good hand, and I'm like, it seems like a really bad hand to me. And that would be it. And I'd be like, well, this guy, he's won a lot more money, so I'll listen to him. Like shit like that, where he literally was just like, no, you can like you just re-raise with bad hands, and then they call and they fold the flop, you know, and we're just like,
that is kind of
okay, sweet. Yeah.
That was 2007. Yeah, that's
exactly.
that's right.
reminds me of when we had Joe Chong on here, and he said, I remember I watched one poker video, and he like opened it up, and it was like a net 15, and it folded.
Had the Post-it note on.
No, not that one. It folded to her on the button, and she had King 4 suited with like 10 big blinds, and she went all in, and that's what made me think of it, King 4 suited, and he's like, oh. Got it. And he just closed it, and then that's all.
I understand. If you go all in, people will just fold.
Yeah.
That was the big strategy.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. Like we're learning how to play tournaments, and he's like, if you're the chip leader, like just start raising and going all in with a bunch. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Like you're just watching. And back then it was even better, right? So It's really hard to overstate what like an influence like that can do. And you know, I learned so much from him for forever, and that's part of the reason why it never even occurred to me to like, all right, I want to leave, because I was having so much fun learning, having so much, and for me, I mean, part of the reason why, you know, I'm still playing what I am now is because I was so obsessed with like not making, like, you know, it was just like the stakes I were playing were like the score of a video game, right? So I was just like, if I saw something bigger going on, I just like had to play it. And if I wasn't playing it, I was just like, how can I start playing it? And what do I have to do to get there? Which, you know, I definitely played every single stake too early. But that was probably good for me long run. And also I probably benefited just from having zero self-awareness in terms of just like, I just like willed myself to win and was probably terrible in some of the fields that I started when I started high stakes. But, probably part of the process, because if you're the other way, maybe you just like never really get to the highest stakes if you just kind of always wait until you're fully prepared for them. So that was a big part of it too. But yeah, I mean, I've said pretty much when anyone asks me that question, how'd you start? The real answer is John Jaffe, right? But something a little bit more interesting is like my DJing background when I was 16, 17.
All right, real quick. Do you have crypto just sitting in a crypto wallet doing nothing? Then you've probably never heard of Gauntlet. Gauntlet.xyz is a billion-dollar research company that manages risk for huge internet platforms like Uniswap, Arbitrum, Jupiter, and a ton of other ones. And how can they help you? They actually curate these things called crypto vaults. And what's a crypto vault? Well, you just put your crypto in, you get an interest rate. The interest rate depends on the supply and demand of that particular token that you put into there. It's kind of complicated, but their algorithms make it like 1,000 poker solvers are working on your side. And you get a return on crypto that was just sitting in your wallet anyway. Here, let me show you how it works. I've got 800 USDC here. I'm gonna put it into this USDC vault. The current interest APY is a little over 9%.
And remember guys, this is DeFi, so you keep your private keys.
And I can take it out whenever I want. Now, as you can see, they have a bunch of different vaults, a bunch of different tokens. Do your own research on all of this, which one appeals to you, but definitely don't let your crypto just sit in your wallet doing nothing. It could be here earning for you. So if you've got USDC or USDT, which if you're a poker player, you probably do, you're gonna wanna have it sitting in one of these vaults earning something for you. So head on over to gauntlet.xyz/T1 and it'll take you right to the vault page. You'll be able to check out which one looks good to you. All right, back to the show.
No, I agree with that. But like, yeah, I feel like there's about 20 follow-up questions through that. Because like, first and foremost, like, especially, I don't know, most of the guests we have on there kind of have, I wouldn't say similar stories, but like the stories of like, you know, like I did a lot of dumb stuff and like I'm kind of like the anomaly. Like there's probably like 1,000 other Nick Petrangelos out there that are working at car washes right now.
Sure.
I mean, they're probably smarter than that.
Or
But you know
banks.
what I mean? Like lawyers or doctors or like, sorry. But like it kind of like, you got the run good at the right time and you got the introduction to Jaffe at the right time. And like all these things had just like funnel right towards like a successful poker career. Because otherwise, like I know for myself, and I honestly would say 90% of our guests we've had on, like they'd all be doing something else if like at the wrong time something would happen.
100%. I mean, not only John, but then even after John, in around that same time when I said I stopped getting backed by him, it's the similar situation where I probably am just playing what I am now for this reason, where I won a satellite to EPT Monte Carlo when I was playing under John's stake that I don't even know if I was like supposed to be playing, not in like am I allowed to do this, but I was just kind of like, oh, I'll play this, and then I was like, oh shit, I I won and now I have to go to Europe. It was like, I had my first EPT ever, and I was like, is that all right? And he's like, I guess now. I guess we're going to
We got equity.
You're just going to go play a 10K Euro tournament when your average buy-in is like $350. So, okay, let's go. So anyway, I played the main. I was taking it obviously insanely seriously because it was such a big deal. And I was just looking like a try-hard, probably being too much of a try-hard, probably being a little bit too aggressive at the table. Or I didn't know that this random little German kid happened to be like the biggest high-stakes backer in the world at that time. And I played at his table, and after on break, he was like, "Are you going to play the super high rollers going up?" And I was like, "No." And it was obviously a dream of mine. He's like, "Oh, here's my number. I would really be interested in buying your action. Like, it seemed like you played really well today." And I was just like, not that had ever happened, but I was also just like, I don't know. People say like, "Oh, dude, you want to buy your action? Hit me up or whatever." I'm just like, this isn't real. And then next one, that was it. I mean, that was the last time I wasn't just playing every super high roller. This kid, this was the real deal. He was just like, "Yeah, I was like, "Oh, well, I got to sell like 92% of the 100K. They're like, "We'll take it." I was just like, all right. And exactly the same thing. The first time that I was selling them massive amounts of action, I just cashed for like 4 million, which at that time was massive, right? Because it's not like these days where you have to cash for 8 to win on the year.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Because now everything's a 250K rebuy or whatever. But back then it was just like the first 100K they ever put me in, I chopped it with Fedor. I look back on that and I was just terrible compared to today, and I don't even know compared to that field if I still was, but I won, and then I just kept banging off scores for them, and then that was just like obviously incredibly lucky, and they were just like, well, this guy has to be good because he keeps having these results, and then does it. I've been in action in anything I wanted ever since, and that's incredibly lucky, right? There's probably hundreds of guys that deserve that chance that never even got up to playing like a live, 10 or 25K back then for sure, that were just like technically better, probably better than me in every way, and I just happened to get that opportunity.
Hey, that's a great story. But I still want to go back just a little bit, just because I know you went to college.
I did, yeah.
So I obviously poker was still the main goal the entire time. But was it pressure from you, your parents? What were you going to school for?
So I have a little bit of a different kind of background in terms of I was really I went to really very competitive schools. Coincidentally, it's kind of strange because I'm from a place called Agawam, Massachusetts. I grew up with all my hockey buddies. Hockey was a big deal. Golf was a big deal. And then, but when I was so young, like I said, I went to a private middle school, and then I actually went away to boarding school I was going there to focus on hockey, but it was it's mostly known for academic reasons. So all of a sudden I just got, I kind of was in this entirely different world. I'm from a blue collar family. My dad's a truck driver. My mom was a bank teller. Normal, super normal, great childhood and everything. But obviously we weren't rich or super privileged. So I ended up going to a prep school in New England called Loomis Jaffe, which is just even back then it costs, it was $35,000 a year to go to the school. In 2000, I graduated there in 2006. But I was going for free I had financial aid and some scholarships. So I had this massive pressure for sports and academics at that time. But I loved it. I really that type of place you're talking about, it's not just how good you are at sports. It's the guys that are getting A's on their essays and crushing chemistry and stuff, they're the man, So I was really competitive about that stuff too, and really competitive about academics. So it never occurred to me for 1 second to not finish college or anything like that. I definitely didn't even make enough money until, I would have had enough money to technically drop out of school when I was sophomore, and I was probably, that time online poker was really good and I was winning consistently, but it was never even an option. My girlfriend at the time, my parents, I have 2 older sisters that are more motherly figures because they're 15 and 12 years older than me. It was not an option, not on the radar whatsoever. But I was also there in college, I was at a D3 school. I was playing hockey and golf, so that was kind of also part of why I would never have considered leaving, just because I had a lot of responsibilities with that too. But yeah, so I was taking school very seriously, and I never thought that I was gonna. I really wanted to, but when I graduated, I kind of either I was lying to myself or I believed it. I did the whole like investment banking interview process in New York too. I didn't get any jobs, so.
As a poker player that plays
you weren't somebody's nephew, so you know.
So.
as a poker player that plays against you, sometimes I wish you had.
Sure.
What'd you get your? So you got finance degree?
I was economics and finance, and actually English as well. The high school I said was very for me. I focused humanities a lot, so a lot of English writing and stuff. And if everyone didn't trick me into thinking that you can't get a job if you're an English major, I would have just been an English major. You know, like I was going there talking to the hockey guys, and I'm all like, "What do you guys?" And everyone's like, "We're a major in business. That's how you make money." And they're just like, "All right, that sounds kind of reasonable. I'm gonna major in business because I'm gonna make some money.
Money would be cool, yeah.
Money's sweet."
Did you ever have any aspirations to go take hockey or golf further than college?
Oh, well, you know, it depends kind of where your reality sets in. But I always thought I actually like did have a very realistic idea of what my skills were. So like my number one goal when I was playing junior hockey before high school was to go play either really high level junior hockey somewhere or play prep school hockey in New England, which is now like the main feeder to college hockey. So I got to that level to play. So that was my immediate goal, is to play prep school hockey. Now, I was on like one of the worst teams in the best league in the country, and we used to get smoked, but I was there. So we played against like I played against so many current and ex-NHLers, but they were the teams that were beating us like 9-2. You know, it was point night when you came to Loomis. It was point night for the other teams, but it was really good competitive hockey. And then from there, you know, I think, you know, playing against those guys, honestly, I was kind of just like, I'm not really close to like the best guys on those teams, and those are the guys that are gonna maybe have a shot. So I think the reality became, I'll try to play low-level D1, or more likely D3 and play two sports, and that's what I ended up doing. And I had a choice of a couple different schools. So I was just looking for like a good academic school that I could play both sports. And at the time, you don't realize that like halfway through college, you might just be like, yeah, I'm kind of done with these sports after you know, 20 years of playing or whatever. But yeah, that was kind of it. It was just like to play. I chose college, you know, I probably in retrospect too much focused on where I knew I was definitely going to be able to play hockey, instead of the coach kind of being like, we can get you in for golf, but you're probably not good enough to play hockey because you're like kind of fat and you can't do any pull-ups. I was like, I'm still good though. And they're like, you're not going to pass physical testing.
There's no pull-up bar on the ice.
What position do you play?
I was defenseman.
Okay,
I was just like I said, like the reason what kept me back is like I was kind of like weak and slow, but like kind of smart and good, but just not good enough at all.
Interesting. I mean, I guess you got a pretty good return on your talent, though. Like to be able to go to the nice
Yes.
prep schools that you
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
go to,
no,
go to college for, sounds like a scholarship. Like
100%. Yeah, I went to a good school. I got to go to great schools, and all of my best friends in the world are from my sports teams, and also boarding school, but like kind of interchangeable. But yeah, all the guys I went to those places with are still people I talk to on a daily basis, and still do the golf trips with and everything else. So for sure, as it worked out, I was incredibly lucky again, just from what I was able to do with the schools.
All right, really quick, guys. Phenom Poker is out now. It is live. If you want to get extra tokens, 100 extra tokens, and if you want to support Table 1, just go to joinphenompoker.com, and that will help us. Fill in your information, and you'll be on with us.
And if it's after October 7th, still go to Phenom Poker. The site will be launched, and there'll be tons of people on there, tons of action, especially until Art and I will run out of money, I think.
That's true. And we are doing some sort of free roll. Anyone who signs up through our link, we're going to eventually reveal the details on Twitter, but if you sign up through our link, we are going to go all in up to 10 times at $100 no limit until somebody wins the $100. We might stack you 10 times and you'll lose 1,000 in this promotion, but we are trying to give away 100. So if we accidentally stack you 10 times, thanks. Thanks for playing. All right, join phenompoker.com. Now!
So you still went on like job interviews and you're just playing poker the whole time. Like, I mean, is that kind of, I know you're still grinding like whatever, $200 buy-in, like, tournaments, but were you disappointed when you didn't get these jobs, or was it just like, okay, good, that part of my life's done, I can finally focus on this?
You know what? It was definitely one of those things, like I don't need to be a psychologist to understand looking back that like I was doing it for everybody else.
Yeah.
Everyone was kind of just like, because I was loving poker, and obviously at that age, I mean, you have no expenses, like you're just like doing whatever you want. So really what happened is I felt like I did feel a little bit of insecurity and stuff, not financially. Like I wasn't really sure what was going to happen, but it seemed like, especially at that time, easy enough. Like you just you'd be on a downswing a little bit or whatever, then you'd just win a bunch and you'd be like, okay, that wasn't really that concerning, because it was so soft, right? But when I graduated from college, I had played through college, and especially my junior and senior year, that would have been 2009, 2010. That's when I was actually starting to like make real money playing online. And it was kind of like, back then they had W Coop, Scoop, F Tops. Seemed like there was something all the time. And I was, kind of like, Scoop was always during finals, because it was in the spring, and W Coop was always during golf qualifying. And I was kind of thinking like, I kind of want to just play all these online poker tournaments and not deal with any of this other shit, And one of the years I was telling the guy, I was telling Matt Moore at the table the other day, I was just like, I stopped playing college golf at a certain point. I was playing really bad, but it was because we were at school for qualifying, and it was at this time of year, and I was just like, I can't skip the 200 rebuy today. I'm done. I'm done, coach. Yeah. Sorry. And he was like, well, first of all, I had carded a 103 in a college golf tournament, so I think he was kind of just like, yeah, buddy, we've been keeping you around for like morale, like it's fine.
Better you than me. The mascot.
Yeah. So he's like, you haven't traveled to be in the lineup for like 2.5 years, right? But you basically aren't on the team anyway. So I was just like, but anyway, but what happened throughout college and stuff? It was so fun to have like a little bit of extra money to pay for everything with the boys, like so anything we could do, that part was great. But when I graduated, everyone, during this time where I had been spending so much time playing online poker, going through the motions to get good grades, but never considering for one moment how any of this stuff actually applies to a real life job or what I want to do, like the stuff I'm learning. But all my roommates, they were fucking around and we were having fun and stuff, but they all just graduated, and everyone I knew from high school or college was either like, well, yeah, now I'm going to law school, or I'm going to be an analyst at Morgan Stanley. I was like, damn, I don't know. Is this the end? I'm just like, all these dudes are moving to New York and have these sick careers set up, and they all still, now they're just like the guys that are just like, have great positions in all these fields. But anyway, so I was just like, I guess I'll move to New York with you guys and figure it out. But that just meant like, it was just an extension of college for me, because I was just like hanging out with all the same guys. They were working nonstop, and I was just playing online poker in an apartment in New York.
Only difference is you didn't have to go to class.
And it was pretty awesome, and I still felt this guilt. So like anytime my sister would hit me up with like, oh, I met this person, they work here, and they're gonna meet you for coffee, I would like, okay, I guess I have to go to the coffee. But then when I would go to the coffee, they'd be like, so what do you want to do? And I'd be like, I want to work on Wall Street. And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm just like, I want to work on Wall Street. And they're like, do you want to work in sales and trading? I'm like,
okay.
Yeah. I'm in. It's just like, so I actually would get set up with all these things, and I would have like a good resume, good grades, but I hadn't been thinking about it whatsoever at all, like because I wanted to play poker.
Yeah, I want to click mouse.
Yeah,
print
sure.
money.
The real thing was I want to play poker. So every time, now looking back on it, I'm like, wow, I must have looked like such a fucking idiot with these, like meeting these people and then being like, what side of business you want to work on? And I'm like, that's the business side. Let's do it.
The one that wears the suits and the ties and the shoes.
I know we both know, but you just say it out loud and then.
So that's how the interviews went. It was kind of like I would get hooked up with stuff. And then 2 years after I graduated, I had played for a long time, but then it was Black Friday. Then I was going back and forth to Montreal. I was living with John Jaffe, still having a great time playing. Little more stress when they're like, the government just shut us down, and Full Tilt has a bunch of my money. Maybe the job thing actually is kind of a good idea. So one of my buddies hooked me up with an interview at Morgan Stanley. This is the last thing I'll say about this job search. This was the final interview of the interview circuit. I probably went 0 for 8 or something. I had a couple deep runs where you get
deep runs
to the fourth round. You go, you get the first round, second round, and then fourth round comes and it's really competitive. And then those ones I really tried for and just barely didn't get them. It's not going to mean much to many of the viewers, but you'll be in the interview and they'll just be draw out how a discounted cash flow works, and you have to have all this stuff memorized. So I did do some intense ones and try to prepare. Didn't get the jobs. I was playing, and it had settled in that I'm I really just want to be playing. This is sweet. I'm done trying to pretend. My parents had after 2 years of being out of college, I think they kind of knew, even though I never say anything. They're kind of yeah, he's probably gonna do the poker thing. My buddy got me one last interview, and it was in New York. I went down. I had moved out of New York and was just living in Montreal at that time. Went down, meet all the boys, and we were heading to the Hamptons after that interview. My interview was on a Friday morning, so I prepared. My buddy's got, they have this thing where he gets $10K if I actually get the job, a referral thing. So he's there. We get there, and all of our other friends are there because we're all going on a weekend trip together. And they're like, let's just go out for a little bit. And I look at the guy that got me an interview, and he's like, dude, it's going to be super chill. I know these guys. Let's just go out. And I'm just like, okay. We see so we go out to this place called the Village Tavern where we always did. And it's it's 8 or 9 or whatever. And the guys are out. Some girls that we used to go to high school with show up. Okay, we're staying. We're talking. Now we're just doing tequila shots, and it's getting late. And I'm like, Ari, now he's president or whatever, secured file, he's probably making $2 million a year doing this job. And I'm just should we? He's like, dude, I'm telling you, they're just gonna ask you about poker, and they think it's cool, and they want you to be a trader. I'm just okay, man, whatever. So we show, and he's a savage, he can just drink and run a marathon the next day. So we get up the next day, he's like, you ready to go? And I'm still absolutely hammered drunk. And I'm just yeah, I'm ready, dude. I'm just okay, what's the treasury rate at right now? They're going to ask me. Okay, it's 3%. Okay, let's go. So we get there, and I just I don't stop sweating from the moment it's August. So I'm in a suit, the same suit that I wore every single time. It's getting tighter and tighter as I get fatter. And I'm sweating. And then once I stop, because we're walking in fucking Manhattan, hot garbage in August. We get in there, and I'm just sweating, and then they start asking me, and then it's over, right? They start asking me questions. I start meeting people I don't know, and I'm just sweat. It's just sweat so for the duration of the interview, I'm going to be sweating the entire time, and it's half booze for sure. And they're just putting me through the ringer on stuff that I should have known, but so as the mortgage department, and they're what's the worst thing that can happen to a mortgage issuer? And I was I know this one. It's if the borrower defaults, and they're nope, nope. And I'm if they pay early, and they're yeah. And so the guy's and I'm God, I had it backwards. And then it's everything is completely off. This is the interview when I told you guys, they're what's your best, so you're a professional poker player, huh? Interesting. Okay, what's your best story? And I was this one.
Probably this one in the future.
Yeah, this one
Brain,
time.
activate! Brain!
This one time I was playing this poker tournament online, and 6 other ones too.
I had aces.
And I won. Check out my scoop hardware.
So total bomb failure. We still talk about it to this day. And then we were out that weekend, and I would see some of the mutual friends, and they'd be heard you had a tough one, huh, buddy? Derek from Structured Finance told me you were a real fucking dud. And I was just God damn it.
Probably the interview would have gone better if you didn't smell like tequila. They probably would have just given you softball questions.
And they're just fucking Ari, we can't be offering these guys $10K for anyone that gets hired because they're bringing in guys like this.
That's a
So
great story.
that is a real story with no exaggeration, and that was my last job interview. And then, yeah, not surprising I didn't get that one.
So I saw you first cashed live tournaments like in '09. I did do a small bit of research or whatever.
That would have been Turning Stone probably.
I believe it was. So like was live even on the radar a bunch, or was like just online just so easy, convenient? Like obviously you played some live like during the early years, but
So Turning Stone, the reason I started playing at Turning Stone for the tournaments was because I had not that one, but I was going to school in Saratoga Springs, New York, for college. So I think it might have even been that one where I was actually only like an hour and a half drive at that point to Turning Stone instead of like 4 hours, and I was making a little bit of money online. So I did have the money to actually go play, and I wasn't just driving up there with like, half a buy-in for 1-2. So I started going there more, and when they would put out these series, I would actually go play just because of proximity. But online was still always kind of like, the only places I went in the beginning was PCA and WSOP. I think that's pretty standard for all the guys that were playing online. And, looking back on it, I just played like a total dickhead, and you just like act like it's vacation. So I think it took me a long time to kind of take, every time we were playing live poker back then, I don't know if you guys can relate to this, but I was always like, oh sweet, I'm going to PCA, like Poker Jam is going to be there, I'm going to see Tapar or Mark, we're going to get fucked up, and like, it's going to be really funny if we drink the whole time and win a tournament, and it's like, yeah, that's probably why I didn't have any live results until like 2012 when you stopped doing that stuff. But so it was mostly like, we were really young and traveling around, right? So it was fun, but I was not focused on live at all until I had that experience at Monte Carlo where I realized like I had access to some big games that would actually make it kind of worthwhile to travel, but not only to travel, but like that actually gave me something to pursue that was not just like this routine of online poker where I don't really know where it's going and I'm not really sure. Because I was already, if anything happened online, I was already playing the highest stakes you could because it just wasn't that high, right? I wasn't a cash game player. So mostly you're playing up to 1Ks or whatever, sometimes a 10K during scoop. So I wasn't saying I was stuck, I was happy, but it kind of opened my eyes to be like, I'm watching like Ole Shemian go from online to crush super high rollers, and I'm watching all these guys like Igor Kurganov and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know where I stand compared to these guys, but I know that I want to play in those things eventually, and then when I had access to that, it gave me an opportunity to refocus and start it more of like I felt as if I was in a new sort of like how I felt about hockey when kind of everything was on the table that could happen, right? Like I could get really competitive and work really hard and work my way up, and now I had like the access to the games from these guys that were willing to buy my action, and that I did not want to take that opportunity and fuck it up, really. I wanted to make sure. So even if I wasn't technically good enough, I think like I probably am not capable now of showing up with the like purpose and attention that I did back then, and just like drive to just make every decision as well as I possibly could. Starting, like, I don't know, that was probably 10, 12 years ago now. Like I don't even think I could reach that level that I had then, and I think it was probably worth a lot for me. So yeah, that's kind of where all the live poker stuff started, is when I was actually able to start traveling and playing big.
No, that's well said. When like the drive's there, it's tough to do it. I was going to ask, like, Jaffe was like backing you like during this period as well, and then I know you didn't name the name, but like the person or the group started backing you for like the high rollers. Mm-hmm. Was there ever like not like a headbutting, but was there any kind of confrontation or like any kind of like I thought I was backing you type thing, or you still gave him the piece?
John was awesome about it. Like basically, John. Obviously, he had whatever piece he wanted, but if there was ever like an opportunity for me that he couldn't afford as a backer, he would not only be like, obviously go play, but he was genuinely happy for me and rooting for me. So even though it should be that way, I don't think it necessarily always is in this industry, but that was refreshing. I've never had a bad experience with a backer or investor in my entire career, and I think considering the stakes I play and how long I've been playing, that's rare and lucky. And he would be willing to, like, he knew at a certain point, I mean, he'd be honest about this. Like, I mean, I loved poker probably. It would have been hard for anyone to match how obsessed I was with poker at that point in my career. And John had made so much money. I wouldn't say he was jaded, but he was just focusing on other stuff. And like, it wasn't as much of just like wake up and do everything I possibly can to get better and play poker. Like that's what my life was from 2011-ish. Maybe even, before Black Friday, it was like that, but it was mostly just like, I'm going to sit down and like, I'm going to like 5-bet Mark Herm today. It wasn't really like guided, like purposeful study and preparation. And anyway, he knew that I was like that. And I got the feeling from him that he would have almost like, if he had to use his money, if we were getting tight, he'd rather skip high stakes and try to let me pursue whatever I was doing than he would be like, no, you're cut off from like these. Like he let me play way too high all the time and was just so generous as a backer. And so, we would be hard on each other in terms of like if we had disagreements about different things in terms of like how we want to play poker. We had a very brotherly relationship in terms of like obviously natural arguments or disagreements or stuff. But when it came down to the business side of it, he is the best, most moral person that you could possibly ever work with and always gave me every opportunity. And then it was a really natural progression to higher stakes where he was just like, I would love to have, these pieces. I can't, because it's really high stakes, it's difficult. But, even when I was on a heater, he promoted me for no reason to just having like 60-40 at a certain point. He's like, you won so much recently that you're just, I just only want to have like, we'll do the same deal, but you get 60% of your profits. So,
no wonder you never quit. sounds like a really good relationship.
It was super easy to. So he had a piece too, and then at a certain point, he was just like, "Dude, go on your own."
Were you the only guy he backed?
No, he's helped and been very generous with a lot of lower to medium stakes players that are still really successful, either in poker in the poker industry now that you wouldn't know, and really, in my opinion, like, kept careers alive and successful for a lot of guys, whether it be as coaching or advice or just like, understanding kind of how they need to change what they're playing or whatever the case may be. So he, one of the guys back then is everyone that knows online poker, his online name on Stars was One Big Ace Hole. His name's TJ Ulmer. John backed him, and we lived together in Montreal as well, and he's still like a really hardworking, really successful online player. And John had a lot to do with kind of myself and TJ and a good number of other guys just staying in the game and becoming successful.
That's good, yeah, because a lot of people went broke staking people. I know back in that era, myself included. In different, if you're not picking the right guys or doing the right things business-wise, you can definitely screw yourself up.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had some bad experiences together, not even that long ago, but for the most part, there's a lot of positive memories and a lot of good that kind of came out of working together. So I would say even just those relationships, right? Like the three of us, me, John, and TJ, a couple other guys too. I think we would say that the whole backing operation was worthwhile just for that.
Just a quick break here, guys. Are you tired of playing with players like this? Not this.
No.
This? Or this?
Or do you want to play with players like this?
Oh, wait. If you like having fun at the poker table, Table 1 is the game for you. We play high stakes, no limit, 100 blinds. And if you want to get into the game, it's actually super easy. We have a website, table1.vegas. You just go to the website, you click get a seat in the game, and fill out the form. It's that easy. It's your name, it's your phone number, it's the date that you're here, and I will personally reach out to you.
And it's only $5K minimum buy-in. Run it up at 2.5 and join us. So after you started getting the opportunity to play these high rollers, which, I mean, especially when you started, like those high rollers were very few and far in between. They were tough, extremely tough tournaments. Like, did you ever come back down and play? I wouldn't say normal stakes, but did you ever have a hard time finding the drive to go and play a 1500 at the Venetian or a 3K at the Wynn or something like that?
No, I would say, those tournaments probably, I wasn't living in Vegas at the time, so I would have been playing them for sure if I was here. I didn't, just because it would have required traveling, but like even up until like 2019, I still played, it's a little bit different, but I still played online sessions where I would fill tables up with like $200 tournaments or whatever. I never had an issue with that. I always thought that, playing anything was going to be good reps. And also I loved playing. And if I went somewhere, I would play the whole schedule. Like I would play, even if I was going to Macau to play huge, I would still be playing the, whatever the 3,000 buy-in was for that trip too. Cause I'm like, I came here to work and play poker. And, I kind of wish I still had that mindset now. It's a little bit different now, but back then, if I went to an EPT, I played every single tournament I could possibly register at that time. And I never really, I think, even now coaching people, I just try to get through to people to like, just really take pride. For me, I want to take pride in how I'm playing the game, and, it doesn't really matter what the stakes are. And honestly too, like, not to be too cheesy, but like, I should feel incredibly grateful to be playing the stakes I am now and all the opportunities I had to play high stakes. So if I ever now like feel like, I'm not going to go, whatever, this is a X amount of money for buy-in or whatever, I'm just like, don't be a dickhead. Like, you would have killed somebody to play this stuff when you were like 23, So I feel like it's a constant balance where you're trying to be like, remind yourself that you're really lucky to be playing what you're playing, and not try to burn yourself out and really like play everything with the way the schedule is now. You got to kind of take some breaks and skip some smaller stuff for sure.
Cool. I know you got like 38 million in the live caches. Do you still piece out a lot when you play these big high rollers?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think like no one's shy about the fact that like you have backing deals at high stakes, you're selling action. In some cases, it's both. You're swapping a lot. Even during periods of time where haven't sold as much action, I would be swapping a ton out. And people think it's crazy, but the reality is like the variance is insane. The stakes are insane, and there's a few things about that, getting the backing deal, right? Like the amount of money that you need to keep liquid, having that somewhere else, not in Luxon and your PokerStars account and USDT and everything else, like there's something to be said for that when it's like over the course of the year, if it goes badly, you need so much liquidity, right? But also just like the sheer volume of high stakes now, it's impossible. Like for me anyway, I don't know if these other guys just made hundreds of millions from crypto or something, but like, you can really, really easily just lose like 5 or 10 million in a year playing Triton. I'm not going to sign up for that. So you got to sell. And then of course it gives people opportunities too. Like I said, when I first started, selling and making money off markup, if it's fair, it's good for both parties, right? And it eliminates variance. So there's that part of the career too at high stakes where it's just like you're gonna make 50% of your ROI or 60% of your ROI selling and take that variance out, especially considering some of these structures are like semi-hyper turbos in some cases. So they're all really good tournaments. I think that the schedule's great, but I think, especially for me, I can't speak for everybody else. Certainly financially, it's mandatory to try to figure out the responsible pieces when you're playing that high so consistently. So yeah, it's a combo of swapping, selling action.
Who are the guys buying all this action? Just like the same kind of groups? Do you always work with like the same people? Or?
For me, I just have now one investor, and that's pretty easy. But for what's going on right now in poker, I think what we're seeing, it is shocking that there's new players showing up all the time. I was kind of talking about this the other day where I was just like, we used to have kind of the same people that are playing for fun, right? Like businessman, VIP, whatever. Sort of the same group of guys at the same, you knew who to expect. Now with Triton and some of the other high roller stuff going on, you really have a lot of new players coming in with the old players, and when the new players sort of cycle out, there's a new group of new players, and then there's like this middle group that's like the new regulars that are in some cases very good. In some cases, I'm kind of like, I don't know about this guy, but they're playing really high stakes, right? So you have, you're getting these fields that are like 135, 150 players for $125,000 buy-in. And it's a combination of all the regs that you'd expect, a bunch of new regs that are really, really good that you expect now that started playing within a year. Some guys playing their first 100K and you're like, I don't know how that guy got in here. His biggest tournament up until today was the $150 turbo on ACR. And then, you have some new recreationals that are coming in. So to answer that question, I think that there's just groups of players that have made a lot of money playing poker and are trying to scale it and back new people that they think are really good. And then there's a few groups that are more on like, there's a couple different plans you can go with, right? You can go with I'm going to take everybody that kind of understands hand strength and put them in this tournament because there's a bunch of whales. And I'm going to try to win that way. Or you can be like, only the best guys get all the money from the tournament. And I don't think either one is true. There are people that overvalue the best regs and how much money they get from the tournament by a lot. And then there are people that undervalue just putting in or people that overvalue just putting in someone they're just like, dude, look at all these whales. Like, this kid has to be winning. And you're like,
10% ROI times 30 people I'm putting in, obviously.
I'm just like, is he winning though when like he's going to have to make really hard decisions later and be terrified? Like, I don't know.
Even at a soft table with like two really good players on his left, he's going to be in like trouble a lot, right? Like guys like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not what you asked either. I just think that too, it's like where the idea of putting guys like that in a tournament is also, even if I see like a live cash game lineup that looks great, I'm like, this kid that thinks he's good is going to get sharked up by these guys that people think are fish, right? You see it all the time where it's just like the timing of when things happen, like you might just see an inexperienced player just pay off the whale in a tournament or a cash game where every reg that actually knows the guy's like, wow, you're getting 0% of the pie here when you call. And you just watch the new guy like call and lose, and it's like, how do they always have it? It's like, because that guy always has it. So I think there's just way more to it than like, oh, my ROI is this because there's these fish. But I don't know where these, there's a lot of different groups putting guys like that in now. And they just have a theory of why it's right. And I'm not privy to the information or who the backers are, but the operation of the guys you'd expect hasn't changed much at all in terms of that stuff. If anything, it's just shrinking and less people are getting funding for the big stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I mean, you see rookie quarterbacks in the NFL, you're like, if you just like match up skill sets against like some of the veterans, you're like, oh, these guys are better, their ROI should be better. But like not everyone has the Joe Montana, Tom Brady like gene of just like, when times get tough, I get better. And like you have to earn that. And that's it's not an easy thing to do in poker because like you don't know when you actually mentally earn that badge. Like you have to make a few final tables, you have to win a few tournaments before like your heart rate just like slows down in those big spots. And you're like, nah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's something like even for you guys being more cash players, it's like if you play a variety of different stakes, you might look back on your year and there's like decisions in massive pots where you're on one side or the other and like not a cooler, right? Like you actually have a real decision. And I just feel like there's so much more to win rate than simplifying that because it's like, if you are a great decision maker in gigantic pots, whether they be tournaments or cash games, that's where all your money is coming from, right? So it's not like, okay, I'm going to sign this kid up for the poker SATs and he's going to get a 1550. It's like, sure, he knows a bunch of shit that this guy doesn't, but whenever this guy that's been playing high rollers for 12 years happens to be in a big pot, we see on the stream every time, he kind of does the right thing, and that's worth a lot more, right? So I think it's very difficult to quantify in that regard.
You definitely have to cut your teeth, or I don't know, as an old person.
Speaking of poker SATs, you've been in the teaching streets over the last several years.
Nice.
I have. That was nice.
All the way from Upswing poker to putting out courses. I don't know if you did anything before that, but
yeah, I did some stuff before that. I coached those guys I was talking about in Montreal. guys that John backed, and another one of our friends backed. I started coaching them probably in like 2011, and I still coach them. So I'm coaching I coach a group of online guys since then. Been coaching them forever. I worked with Chance's company and coached privately there, and then actually the way Upswing thing worked is Connor Jinen, I was good buddies with him and played a lot of poker with him and traveled a lot. They asked him to do it. I think it was like in 2017, and then Connor was like, yeah, I don't want to do that, but
It's gotta be way too cool to do that, right?
yeah, probably. He was like, I don't want to do that, but Nick will probably do it because I know he's already doing all that shit by himself anyway. Which was true, right? So I had like back then it was like, if you were running Sims on PO Solver, that was like big deal, just doing it. Right now it's like you have to have your own fucking library and there's all these different competing things. And it's like, I don't know, my AI is better. Back then it was just like, I know how to like put in the right sizes and like run this game tree, and that was like a differentiating thing. So I was doing that shit and making preflop in Bunker Solver. And so when they asked me, I was kind of like, yeah, I mean, this isn't going to be too much work for me. I'm just going to have to kind of use my library and record a bunch of videos. Now the recording of the videos, I don't know, like talking to yourself on a camera get 30 hours of edited footage is fucking brutal. It's really a lot, and every time I was done with one, I said I wouldn't do it, and then I'm doing another one right now, actually. So this will be my like 5th one. That's like a 30-hour type thing. But yeah, I did the Upswing, and they're amazing at their job and amazing to work with. So I did a few different projects with them.
I don't know if you're allowed to say, but how do you structure a deal like that? Do they have like standardized deals?
Yeah,
that
they actually, yeah, I'm allowed to say it's. They actually do when they contract, and obviously Doug is a sharp guy, right? So they contract you and they talk to you. Okay, we had a little call, and Doug's like, all right, sounds good. Sounds like you're our guy. Now you can have the option of getting 35% of the revenue. Maybe back then it was even 33 or something. I kind of moved up a little bit, but say 1/3. And then you can do that and gamble on yourself, or we'll just pay you 100. I think at that point it was 180K right away. And I was just like, I'll just see how it goes, because I knew they're a really good business, and I'll take the 33%. And like, but also looking back on, it's like Doug's not going to be on the wrong end of his buyout. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like, there's no way. He's just like absolute minimum. We sell 600 of these things, and if we go, we'll just give this idiot 180,000, and he would have rated to make like 800, but we'll just keep it.
Sounds like you made the right choice.
Oh yeah, I mean they sold those ones. They sold to like 2,000 of those.
Shit.
Wow. Oh, wow.
So but it's them, right? I mean, like they need a good product to work with, but
Amazing distribution funnel. Yeah,
they're just unbelievable, right? Like they need something good, but they're so good at marketing and distribution, funneling, right? Like those guys are just, I couldn't say, can't say anything bad about working with them. They're awesome.
Yeah. So then, but now you're starting your own thing.
Yeah, well, I would have. Honestly, if there were more stuff for me to do with Upswing, I would have kept doing it. But at a certain point, they're like, we wish it wasn't true, but like, our customers can't really get any more Nicky P, man, like this. And I'm thinking the same thing myself. I'm like, I've only have so many heuristics, boys. Like the heuristics aren't changing, so I can't. I mean, that's why the last one I did was actually a joint course with Darren, which was sweet. I didn't even intend to do that, but they kind of looked like they were looking for a new lead coach, and I was just like, maybe Darren can do it, and then I can help him with the technicals, and he can do it. So that was really good, and that worked out. But yeah, it was time to. I wasn't really moving on from Upswing with any future plans, but a guy that I really love and had helped me with a lot of work in the past had this idea, actually stemming from me on coaching calls with them, always being like, yeah, this GTO Wizard thing, it's like kind of good, but also like, look at this. This is completely wrong. This is wrong. Don't do this. Like the solve's not done. Not to say that it's not an amazing product and has unbelievable UI and stuff, but especially early stages, right? I had a big group of my guys that, they're not studying with me every single day. So when they weren't, they're studying with GTO Wizard. And I was always telling them, like, beware, like, some of the solves aren't, you don't really know what the convergence is. And then to prove it, I would, like, run solves side by side in PO Solver, which is, like, going to remain the gold standard for precision and accurate outputs forever, just because it's a CFR. And if you run it all the way down, the answer is what it is, right? So I'm just like, look, boys, like, this is great for you guys to get ideas and shapes and practice and stuff, but, like, it's not, a lot of it is kind of not done or whatever. And, like, it has a million sizes everywhere, and it's just confusing and all this stuff, right? So then a kid that was in those calls just was like, I want to quit my job and, like, work as hard as I possibly can to build our own thing that's actually done right. And I was like, and he's like, would you be willing to, like, do that since you're always talking about this stuff? And I'm like, I would be, you know, a coach and instructor, but, you know, I'm not going to do stuff on the business side. And then he happened to know DeVoris too, Daniel DeVoris, who's a really popular Run It Once coach. Mm-hmm. And then I work with Dan a lot, play with him a lot. And I was like, would you want to kind of be partners in this? He knew Neil, our buddy's name is Niels. He knew Niels, and Niels was ready to just work his ass off and get this thing off the ground with us and a few other guys that we really know that are great workers. And then John Jaffe got involved. And as you know, he's doing a podcast that kind of generates some interest for GTO Lab, which is what our stuff is called. And then we got Orpin involved too. I'm not sure if you've seen on high stakes streams or anything like that.
I know kind of who he is, and then I went to your website and looked at was it like 8 co-founders or 6?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Orpin is somebody that invests in a lot of high stakes poker players, including myself, including DeVoris. He plays all the high rollers. Really, really sharp guy, really successful background in building and selling companies. So we were like, that sounds pretty good. We're trying to, like, build a company, and maybe he can help us out. So he's involved in our main thing is just, like, we're just building huge libraries of ICM and chip EV that are actually done to, like, my standards, mine and Dan's standards and Elite Pro standards that you would want for your baseline study. Then don't worry, we understand, boys. It's all about the exploits. We understand. Don't start. It's okay. We're not gonna. It's not all about, like, what the solver says, what we do. So we're building that stuff. We got a bunch of pro videos from really good guys, and we're, you know, even got Ike on the webinars and stuff right now, helping us out.
That's cool. Yeah, I watched a couple of the podcasts just to prepare for this. There was like 8 or 9 of them already out there with Jaffe interviewing various people, including Ike. There's like a 2-parter with Ike Haxton that was interesting, to say the least. I know they were playing some game and he had to guess something, and Ike went into the tank for, like, the entire episode, basically.
Ike is a deliberate guy.
But it was good. Don't get me wrong. Check that out, guys. It's GTO Lab podcast on YouTube.
Yeah, the John's been working hard on the podcast, and yeah, we're gonna probably release a bunch of the stuff that we have planned over the rest of the year, and we'll keep adding as time goes. So we're excited. We're excited to try to get a bunch of guys doing content that wouldn't normally otherwise, but with our relationships with certain people, we're really hopeful that we can get some of the really best guys that haven't put anything out there to make some videos for us. And John and I are making videos, and Dan and I are making videos. So it'll be and Ben Heath as well is on our team now too. So yeah, we're pretty excited about it. We're right in the beginning stages right now with releasing stuff slowly. So
cool, man. I'm excited for that. That's going to be good. All right, where do we go from here, Wiz?
I normally would say, like, what's going on in the future for you, but, like, you've kind of, like, outlined the professional side of poker. So let's attack the more fun side of, like, the actual poker part. Like, what's the next thing on your agenda? Like, what does the rest of the year look like for you?
So for me right now, I'm doing stuff, just kind of daily stuff, working, you know, for the new company. I still do have guys that I coach, so when I have time off, I'm doing that. And then now it's going to be a lot of golf. I am doing a 75-day exercise and no drinking challenge. I'm on day 20.
I don't like that at all.
Not very popular. Not very popular. Otherwise, I would be drinking with you guys right now.
What's the point of the bet? Is it to, like, get in shape?
There's no bet. I was just driving. I was just on my way home from Europe, and I was just like,
self-control.
I was like, I gotta kind of do something that's challenging, and I'm not gonna, like, you know, hike Mount Everest or something. I'm like, I gotta start small.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to work out twice a day, but like walking the dogs counts as a workout. So if I
So
do
a beer doesn't really count as drinking.
So yeah, exactly. So
In a wine cooler. Yeah.
that my thing, my focus right now is just like, yeah, I don't, because sometimes if I'll play a lot of golf right now. I'm gonna focus on trying to get these workouts in, whether it be hiking with the dogs, mountain biking, little bit of lifting in my garage. It's not really. I don't know if anyone would actually call it real weightlifting, but it's happening.
No one was there to see it.
It's
So
happening.
I'd say it counts.
It's happening sometimes in the garage, and then I'm just really. I got a new house like a couple months ago, and I haven't had a chance to really spend time in it. And my family, who never travels, my mom and dad are old, and my dad had not been on a plane since he flew back from Vietnam when in the war. He never traveled, and they just hang out in Massachusetts, where I'm from, and they came to visit my house in Canada 2 summers ago, and now this is their second big trip. They're coming out. The whole family's coming out. My sister, my niece, nephew, her husband, my mom and my dad, and my mom and my dad are staying in my house with us for 9 days. And my sister, I was lucky enough that Nate from the cash game actually hooked my sister up with 2 free rooms at Red Rock. So
don't have to have everyone.
Because I was like, man, I don't know how this is going to work. But now we outsourced it a little bit. So that's what's on for the next month, and then it'll be time to go back to Europe for poker, November 1st. That's a Triton, and then there's a lot of good stuff there, like a big 200K invitational. I love going. I love when I say I love at this stage in the stage of my career. When I say I love going there to play poker, it means I like the hotel because I just go in the elevator down to the poker room and back up. So I love going to Monte Carlo Bay for a poker. I have not done something cultural in a single city since 2016 probably. So yeah, I just got back from Barcelona. Their elevator and their hotel room was looking great.
You did all right over there too, from what I've seen.
Yeah. I won. I chopped a turbo and hadn't played like a crazy amount of buy-ins. So yeah, that one.
And you won the win over the summer, right? A couple
Yes,
million.
that one is a lot different. When you
million buckaroos.
winning
That's a large field.
winning a 10K for 2.2 and winning a 50K rebuy for 400 is
Different ROIs.
Yeah, I like the other one.
I'll say you need to update the GTO Lab website because it says you only have 32 million in cash.
That's what our meeting's about on Thursday.
All right, one more poker related question before we go off, because we get this one sometimes, because when we have the best players on, people want to know, who do you think is the toughest person someone you don't want to see on your left when you go to Triton in November? You can pick a couple people if you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a lot, and I would say, toughest and the guy that you don't want on your left, it's like 2 different things.
That's true. Like sometimes
you.
Yeah, like a drunk Justin could be his most annoying person on his left. Like, to be honest.
No.
But like certainly not like.
Because every time I open, you call and then someone squeezes us, you asshole.
I feel like I've been a little bit redundant with this, or we have also on we had the Ike podcast or whatever. I mean, I'll just use Ike as an example of this type of player. There are many, but the guys that are truly capable of trying to find the hardest play at all times and executing it, those are the guys that you don't want on your left. Where you're just like, because you know the vibe, right? He's the guy that, we're sitting 1,000 big blinds deep in this cash game, but like, it's not really going to go in, right? Yeah. It's like, no, he's the guy, or it's going to go in.
He won't take the line and just like bet pot, 2x pot, and ran 4x pot. He won't do that.
That's probably the best.
The guy, that's good, yeah. The guy who after 3 seconds after you release your bet, you're like, man, I sure hope he doesn't do this. And then he does that exact thing every single time.
Yep. You're like, we're at SPR 45. There's no way he's just going to put me all in, right? No, okay. So that's the guy you don't want, right? It doesn't matter because, like, you can, especially in a deep stack cash game where he's capable of turning every single hand into a bluff catcher. That's not the nuts for you. It's not very fun.
Oh, that doesn't sound fun. Anyways, if you guys want to play with people that aren't those guys, come to table 1. We're a little bit more selective. Although Nicky P did play with us the other day.
It was incredibly fun. It was very fun.
He stacked me in a hand. I don't even remember what I had. I was telling Justin before he came that you shoved the river. I called pretty quickly. I saw a flush, I think, and I mucked really quickly. And I literally don't remember what I had. So
come play with us while Art has money.
come play with us so we don't always have to play with Nikki. All right, is that the pod?
Yeah,
All right.
that's probably about right.
All right.
Yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate
it. Thank you.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money. Whoa, you know I've been in my bag, yeah. Buddy, I got it like that, yeah. Y'all better stop. Me and my boy gon' climb to the top.